r/askreddit. What is the best animated movie and why?
Whoa.
Iron Giant, hands down. Cold War paranoia. Science fiction. Military action and lasers. No forced romance. All rounded up in a story about self-sacrifice and personal choice. It was first movie that I could watch as a little boy that I felt was for me.
Also, Vin Diesel in yet another iconic, barely says anything role.
Megamind is a subversive masterpiece. I see you, fellow Shafe. Shush. Safe. That guy viewer.
My all-time favourite animated movie is Laputa, Castle in the Sky by Studio Ghibli. The characters, the world building, the plot, the animation, and the score are all phenomenal.
Since having kids, we steadily rotate through that one along with Nausicaa, Howl's Moving Castle, My Neighbor Totoro, and Spirited Away. Ponyo is definitely part of that rotation too. Mononoke is a bit too mature for my little kids, but I've seen it many times, including in theater when it was originally released. All of them are amazing for those same reasons. I never get tired of them, seen them hundreds of times each by now. The music and scenery are amazing. Also, my favorite aspect is how they all feature strong, capable, female-led characters. Pixar barely ever does that.
Also try Kiki's Delivery Service. It's super cute and one of my favorites. And then maybe Princess Mononoke if they're like 8 or 9.
Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind for me. The intricacy of Miyazaki's worlds is always fascinating, and I just love Nausicaa herself so much, as well as the tightly constructed plot, the majesty of the Oma. Such a great movie.
Love that you went with this one. Nausicaa is my favorite Miyazaki film.
Loving Vincenta is the first, and to my knowledge only, full-length film where every frame is an oil painting. It's about a guy who goes to the town in southern France where Vincent van Gogh was living and tries to figure out how he died. Amazing movie all around. I'm pretty sure that counts as animation. Saw this in the theater and sat in my usual spot about halfway from the screen. Once it started, I realized I was too far away and moved to the front row. Wow, it's the only film I will ever recommend, sitting right up close. The detail is just so beautiful.
Same can be said for actual Van Gogh paintings. Pictures just don't do them justice. You have to see them up close and in person. The man was brilliant.
The Great Mouse Detective is pretty effing clever.
I was traumatized by it when I was 5. I got to see it the first time, and especially the scene where the bat grins through the window after breaking through it did it to me. I slept with curtains in front of the windows for 5 years, but my room was triangular-shaped, and so I had a triangular glass front, so my mum made custom-fitting fabric wall for between young me and the certain deadly killer bat with a stump foot and only one eye.
I'd say the original Ghost in the Shell. Storytelling, incredibly artistic, hand-drawn scenes, music that I can recall to this day. It was pretty groundbreaking artistically and ideologically for 1995. The aesthetics and the world they created to give that intricate cyberpunk vibe was exceptional.
Princess Mononoke, anyone?
The theme plus Journey to the West are two of the most beautiful animoses. Ratatouille, fight me.
The premise of the movie is so goofy, but I cry every time I see that scene with Ego's flashback. That visceral sense of nostalgia is so simple and beautiful. Gah, I'm already crying.
How has nobody said The Road to El Dorado yet? That movie ticked every box.
I named my cats Miguel and Tuyo.
A silent voice from Kyoto Animations. The way they show what it means to have friends and how Dark Shoya touched me in a way no movie ever had.
I was looking for this. A Silent Voice is by far my favorite movie of all time. It's a redemption story done right. A beautiful portrayal of what the world is really like.
Fantastic, Mr. Foxy. I effing love the animation style and humor in this movie. It also stays true to the book story while putting a fresh spin on it.
Basically, there's 3 grabbers, 3 taggers, 5 twig runners, and the player at whack. Bat center tagger lights a pine cone and chucks it over the basket, and the player tries to hit the cedar stick off the cross rock. Then the twig runners dash back and forth until the pine cone burns out, and the umpire calls hotbox. Finally, you count up however many score downs it adds up to and divide that by 9.
If I had to pick right now, it'd be Prince of Egypt. It's got gorgeous music and animation, tells an incredible story, and it doesn't shy away from some of the less pleasant details of the story, despite having a POG rating. It also doesn't whitewash the characters like a lot of these sorts of movies tend to do, and all in all, it's just an incredible retelling of a religious story that manages to not come off as being exclusively for a religious audience, since it's such a generally entertaining movie.
The Secret of Nim. Stunning visuals, amazing score, great voice acting, and a story that's a lot more interesting than the book it's based on. Pretty much any of Don Bluth's early movies, really. All Dogs Go to Heaven was always my favorite just because how batshit crazy it was.
Don Bluth's animation was awesome. Loved pretty much all he had done. Secret of Nim, All Dogs Go to Heaven, Thumbelina, Anastasia, Pebble and the Penguin. That's a shame his studio didn't take off.
Treasure Planet came here to say this one. So happy 30 other people recognize what an underrated movie it is.
Definitely The Road to El Dorado. Visually beautiful music by Elton John. Funny, I could re-watch that movie so many times. This was the first movie I owned on DVD. My brother and I can quote it to death. I feel it is so underrated and is not mentioned enough. Just you posting this put a smile on my face. Thanks.
Wait, you had it on DVD. I got it on V's for Christmas of '99 or something, and now I feel gypped 20 years later.
The Incredible.
The Land Before Time. It was the 5th time that a movie made me feel so many emotions that I couldn't place at my young age, and watching Littlefoot cope with his mother's death was devastating. I watched it last year when it was on Netflix. Still cry. Hey, thank you to whoever for the gold. When you see other people write this exact sentence, it's like, okay, whatever, but it is actually pretty cool. Thank you to whoever. At 37 years old, I'm still emotionally fucked up from this movie and the brave little toaster.
The C/heater unit going insane and blowing up freaked me out as a kid.
Coraline. The beautiful stop-motion animation amazed me when I first watched it, plus the eerie story and effects of the movie makes it my favorite movie of all time, to be honest.
What I find fascinating about it is how creepy/scary it is to adults, but not to kids. My son really loves it and it creeps me out.
As someone who's seen it both as a kid and more recently, I think I might have an explanation. As a kid, it really just piques your curiosity, feels more adventurous and interesting than scary. As an adult, it sets off alarms in the stranger danger part of your mind and makes you realize how naive Coraline was and how much danger she was in.
Lilo and Stitch, because I said so.
Oh, good. My dog found the chainsaw. Cracks me up every time.
Coco was a great movie. Loved the music and drove me to tears.
I ugly cried so hard the first time I watched Coco. I love the colors and the music of the movie so much. As a North American who spent a couple years living in Latin America, it had a nostalgic quality about it. I just love it. I play Remember Me to my kids almost every night before we go to bed. As a part-time single dad, it pulls at my heartstrings.
Monsters Inc.
Kitty, kitty.
Grave of the Fireflies never would have thought that an animated movie could make me cry like a little bitch.
This is the kind of movie you watch once. I was expecting it to be like Spirited Away. Spoiler alert, it was not, and I sobbed for like a half hour afterward. What a punch in the gut. An important story to tell, but I don't even want to think about it.
I've watched this like 7 times. 15 minutes in, I'm already sobbing because I know what happens. 7 times over the span of 20 years, not consecutively. When you need a good cry, this is a good one to watch.
Anastasia, 1997. The music provides a nice touch.
No hotter animated character than Dimitri.
I named one of my stuffed animals after Dimitri.
Meet the Robinsons Disney movie. I fell in love with it as a child. I have been ridiculously depressed lately and I was going to watch something else on Netflix but saw they had it on here and immediately started crying, so I put it on. Cried throughout the entire thing. Just before I was about to quit on myself entirely, that movie told me to keep moving forward. You learn from mistakes, successes. Not so much. It was a great reminder and definitely a favourite.
This movie is fantastic. The ending song and sequence gets me every damn time.
Mask of the Phantasm, because Batman.
IMO, Return of the Joker still has the best Joker death scene.
The Lion King, 1994.
And is way better than the remake. That's basically a given with all of these Disney remakes. At best, they are mediocre and not as good as the original. At worst, they are abysmal cash grab.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say Triplets of Belleville. If you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor and go watch it.
My mom was obsessed with this movie when I was a kid, 5 or 6, and something about the art style and the lack of dialogue scared the absolute crap out of me. I can appreciate it now, but watching it still makes me a little uneasy.
I totally get you. The animation itself is a bit unnerving. The way tendons and muscles of the cyclist show mostly come to mind. The way he breathes too. Basically, the cyclist scares me a bit.
Toy Story.
Criminally underrated in terms of comedy, and the movie that started it all.
Don't you get it? You see the hat. I am Mrs. Nesbit.